how do you feel this event has affected your life? I know that you got 30 days in jail or something like that, and some fines and restitution, I believe. I could be incorrect about that, but
No, yeah,
uh,
that's right. They sentenced us to all they broke all the judges and broke the law and charged us, sentenced us to both jail and probation, which is illegal for a misdemeanor, which the Supreme Court overruled and said you can't do that, which I appealed in San Diego, and they did. Then the lady was she's a criminal judge from Stanford that just got on her soapbox 3 years after everybody knows the truth and lied about everything. Same with the prosecuting DA here just evil, corrupt people. And I only went through with my appeal to because I did 22 of my 30 days, and I technically still owed 8 days. But the probation office in San Diego here finally just said, fuck it, we know you didn't do anything wrong, and just never followed through with it. But I did 8 days when they arrested me after they made the bogus Jan 6 committee. 10 months after I'd already told the FBI everything, they arrested me at a Border Patrol checkpoint and then locked me in the federal prison in San Diego for 8 days until I could get out, because I had a technicality for a car accident I was in Hawaii, so they wouldn't let me out for an unrelated incident. But so I did 8 days in solitary with one other, locked in a cell for 23 and a half hours. The first 8 days with one other guy, where you make a choice of you could either make a phone call or you could take a shower. Those are your two for the half an hour that you're out of your cell. So it was one or the other. Either you could get clean or you could try to talk to somebody. So that was an interesting experience. And then, 2 years later, I got a really mean probation officer that wanted to put me in jail as soon as she got in control of me. So she sent me to one of those halfway house jails in San Diego. It's called Ocean. It's in a little neighborhood called Ocean View. Everybody calls it Ocean View, where it's like people that get out of prison can sleep there overnight and have jobs and slowly make themselves back into the community. Well, they put me in in that place for 15 days. But within the first 3 days, I got beat up. I got attacked by 2 different inmates. So the lady that ran that place said that they had an entire floor of a building empty that they weren't using, and it would be better for me if I would just put myself in and allow them to put me in solitary confinement away from everybody, because I didn't belong there and I wasn't a criminal, and everybody could just smell a victim. So basically, I voluntarily let them put me in solitary for 15 days. For the rest, I basically did 3 days with the criminals and then 12 days in solitary confinement myself. So I did a total of 22 days incarcerated. And the pretrial thing is just as bad as being in jail or being on probation. I mean, all of us were subjected to the most criminal gulag behavior from our government ever. As soon as we're charged, we lose our passport and we lose they tell us that we can't have a gun. So we have to give all of our guns to our friends and our family, and we have to give them our passport. And then we're not allowed to leave San Diego County. So before you even go to trial in this pretrial system in America is so corrupt, and it just destroys your life. I wasn't allowed to cross every time I crossed the border, when I would come back, the State Department had a hold on me where they had to chain me to the wall. So instead of just putting me in secondary and fucking with me like they always did before, because I refused to take a passport down there because there's no law that says you have to, I would always get put in secondary anyway. So all these guys already know me. Well, now the State Department's telling me to chain me to a wall. So I just start screaming bloody murder, profanities, and calling them every name in the book until they let me go. And that went on for months. And then the supervisor was so sick of it that he gave me his personal cell phone number so I could warn him every time I wanted to go to my house in Mexico. I would call his personal cell phone number, and then he would tell everybody at the border not to put me in the computer when I came through the next day. So I would call him on Friday and say, I'm coming back on Sunday night or Monday morning. And then on Monday morning, they'd have a notice in their meeting, Philip's coming back through, don't put him in the computer. So then they would just wave me through for the next fucking 6 months until they put an APB out for me. And then they had arrested me at a different border checkpoint, one of those illegal ones that they have in America, 10 miles from the border, just randomly pull everybody over and ask you where you're from, ask you for your papers. I live behind one of those now. And so they just, because I sold my house at the beach, the FBI was parked in front of my house at the beach every day. I lived next to a Masonic center, so they were just parked next to my house all day, every day, just listening to everything I did. And so I sold my house at the beach. I was going to anyway, but it was just made me preemptive to do it sooner. And I bought a house on top of a mountain on 150 acres where nobody can get near me. I got a mile-long driveway with a gate at the bottom. So then they started following me with helicopters, but they were afraid to come and get me. Like a couple other, a guy I just met, Hank Munzer. He said he lived in the back of the hills in Montana, and they would never come and get him in a million years. They just waited to arrest him, and same with me. So they just put an APB out for me and had the Border Patrol arrest me for this when they actually arrested me and took me to jail. I had the 4 S's. I got a job in Merced, California, and I live in San Diego, so I started flying, and I didn't know anything about the 4S program. And I got there, and they made me miss my flight, and I missed my job interview the very first time I tried to go. And then I had to return, and then I had to tell the guy that was trying to hire me why I missed my flight. So I almost missed the job right off the bat, but luckily I was being referred to the job by the general superintendent of the whole company, and they really needed me. So he had a cousin in politics, so he actually knows how the shit works, because his cousin is a congressman up there, so he actually knows everything. So he wasn't even shocked when I told him what happened to me. Well, anyway, I didn't know it was going to go on forever. Every single time I tried to fly to Fresno, the TSA just fucking destroyed me, and the Alaska Airlines couldn't print me a ticket. It was just a disaster. But they fucked with me every Monday and Friday, back and forth, forever and ever and ever, to the point to where I was getting so pissed that I picked up my suitcase one time and slammed it down after they had harassed me at the gate for the 10th time in 10 weeks, and they filed a report against me. And then they tried to entrap me the next time I was there, but I knew I was finally onto them because I'd been getting fucked with, but I was never videotaping them. Well, this last time that I slammed my thing down, I realized they were really getting aggravated, so I broke my phone. They were messing. So I broke my phone out, and I tried to videotape their names and badge numbers, and they all flipped their badge numbers around and hid them from me. And I was like, oh, it's the power of the camera. Finally, I'm getting some action out of these scumbags. So the next time I came, I watched them set up an hour, and they set up an hour before my flight. These TSA employees are literally getting paid to just harass us and do nothing for hours and hours and hours. They're only in the airport to harass people. The whole crew, it's the same 5 people in San Diego every time I go. Okay, Phil's here. His flight's leaving in an hour. Go set up your little table. Go hide in the corner over there and wait until he tries to board, and then make a fake random thing, and then only pull me out. Let everybody in. I'm the only one that gets pulled to the side and harassed. And so the last time they tried to do it, I had my camera on videotaping, and the guy said, you can't videotape me. And I just put the camera down right on the Alaska counter and then stood in front of my own camera and then interviewed him. And he didn't even know that I left my camera on. And I asked him, I go, hey man, you've been doing this to me for months now. Every week you do the same thing. And I go, why are you acting like you don't know who I am? And he looked me right in the eye. He goes, what does it matter? And I go, dude, it matters, man. What kind of a friggin' zombie apocalypse joke are you? So anyway, he did his thing, and I did my thing, cussing him out, profanity, giving him the bird. And the whole time this was happening, they were hiding behind a column, videotaping me, trying to instigate me, trying to get me to hit the guy. And at one point, he went down to my foot, and he was taking so long to touch my feet and play with my feet that I lifted my foot up before he was done. Well, I got a letter a week later from the president of the TSA telling me that I kicked a TSA agent in the head. And I responded back to the lady, and I said, hey lady, I got the whole thing on tape. You guys want to threaten me to kick me off the TSA? I recorded the whole fucking thing, lady. Although you think I was flipping off your stupid cameraman for no reason, I was flipping him off because I was videotaping you. And sure enough, I got another letter like a week later that said, sorry, sir, da, 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 and my S's got removed. So they took it all the way to, and it was interesting because the TSA officers in San Diego would treat me like absolute dog shit, but the TSA officers in Fresno took the time to ask me why I was being harassed. And after they took the time to know me and the supervisors in Fresno understood what was going on, they didn't do shit to me. It was a one-sided thing. It was just the scumbags in San Diego were acting on the criminal communist orders, and the people in Fresno actually have brains in their heads and actually know how to treat a human being. So the discrepancy between, even though I know for a fact the TSA shouldn't exist at all, it was one positive aspect of it was there are still human beings that work for that criminal organization. So yeah, that was one. The attacking of me was mind-boggling from every level. You know, any type of of interaction you have to have with the federal government was just utterly despicable, and still is to this day, to be honest. You know.